I don't deserve your sympathy, just your prayers. My wife can't have children, Bailey, a backyard grill I'm overly proud of, and a wife I've loved since we were both teens at Bible camp. And now, there's a woman carrying my child. Not just any woman. My wife's best friend. Her closest, and still writes handwritten cards to every sick neighbor. She's the kind of woman people say has a quiet strength, though few know how much she's carried behind that warm smile. Caroline can't have children. Not because she doesn't want them, God knows we've tried. It's because after 2 failed IVF rounds, a miscarriage at 17 weeks, and a hysterectomy due to severe endometriosis, her womb is gone. And with it, every dream she's ever had of holding a baby with my eyes and her smile. The night we came home from the hospital after her final surgery, she curled up on our bed, clutching an empty onesie she'd bought during our first pregnancy. I remember holding her as she wept, both of us knowing, though we didn't say it, that this was the end of that chapter. So when her friend Melissa called crying one night, thrilled about having another person under our roof, but I didn't argue. After everything my wife had lost, I wanted to support her in any way I could. At first, Melissa stayed out of our way. She helped with dishes, joined in evening devotionals, even started attending therapy. But within weeks, I started noticing things. She'd wander around the house late at night, usually in oversized t-shirts with nothing underneath. Once, I caught a glimpse of her through the crack in the bathroom door, steam curling around her silhouette. She smiled. I looked away. The worst part? I started looking more. It was subtle. Harmless, I told myself. Just noticing. But sin doesn't start with action. It starts with a look. Then a thought. Then a justification. Everything changed the night of Caroline's church retreat. She'd been planning it for months, an out-of-state women's leadership conference in Kentucky. She was so excited, she packed her bags 2 days early. The night before she left, we prayed together. She asked God to renew her strength. She kissed me like we were still 23. And then she was gone. That night, Melissa and I sat on the couch watching old reruns. I cracked open a bottle of red wine. She poured the second glass. We talked about our lives, my marriage, her divorce, our mutual loneliness. The lights were low. The wine was strong. I said something about regrets. She said something about needing to feel wanted. And then she kissed me. I wish I could say I stopped her. I wish I could say I remembered my vows, or thought of Caroline's face, or pulled away. But I didn't. I let it happen. I wanted it to happen. We had sex on the couch. No protection. No clarity. Just 2 broken people clinging to each other like shadows in the dark. The next morning, she didn't say a word. She made coffee. I took Bailey for a walk, unable to look myself in the mirror. We never talked about it again. Weeks passed. She was pale, shaking, holding a pregnancy test. Positive. I couldn't breathe. Mark, she said, I don't believe in abortion. And after everything I've been through, I'm not going to terminate a child God gave me. But I started. I told the pastor, she said. I needed spiritual guidance. He knows. I felt my blood drain. Pastor Ronald called me the next day. His voice was calm but firm. You need to come clean, Mark. Not just to your wife, but to God. Secrets kill more than just marriages, they kill your soul. He said Caroline had a fragile heart. That stress triggers her blood pressure. That any more trauma could be fatal. But truth is a kind of mercy, he added. Even if it hurts. I've spent every day since walking the tightrope between confession and concealment. I eat dinner beside a woman who still believes I'm the man God chose for her. I sleep beside her while another woman carries my child in the room down the hall. The baby, my baby, the one Caroline prayed for, and I gave to someone else. Last night, Melissa left an ultrasound photo on my pillow. A black and white swirl of grainy beauty. My son or daughter. A heartbeat I helped create, outside the covenant of my marriage. Today, Caroline found me staring at it. What's that? She asked, walking in. An old photo, I lied, tucking it under a book. She narrowed her eyes. You've been distant lately. Is everything okay? I nodded. Lied again. She leaned in and kissed my forehead. I've been praying about adoption again, she whispered. I feel like God's about to do something big for us. I wanted to scream, tear my chest open and show her what I've become. Instead, I just said, My wife just told me she feels God is about to bless us. I'm already a father, to someone else's shame. Should I tell her the truth and risk destroying her, or live with this lie forever? Let me ask you this, what would you do? Confess and crush her world, or protect her from the truth that could break her completely? Comment below. I really want to know. If silence could kill, I'd be a ghost already. For the last few weeks, I've existed in a strange limbo. I wake up next to Caroline, serve her coffee with a smile, kiss her goodbye as she heads to school, then spend the rest of the day fighting the urge to scream. I'm living two lives. One as the man my wife still prays with. The other as the father of a secret child down the hall. Melissa is 5 months pregnant now. She's showing. That delicate curve is impossible to ignore, and yet, somehow, Caroline hasn't noticed. Or maybe she has, and she's in denial. I can't tell anymore. Some days she says things like, Melissa's gained a little weight, haven't you? And laughs it off. Other days she asks me why I look so pale at dinner. I'm not pale, Caroline. I'm dying inside. Every thump of Melissa's footsteps down the hall feels like the heartbeat on that ultrasound. And God help me, I still hear the way she whispered my name that night. One moment of weakness, and now I'm tied to her forever. Last Sunday at church, everything felt tighter. Tighter shirt. Tighter air. Tighter throat. Pastor Ronald preached on hidden sin, and every word landed like a punch to the gut. You can fool people, he said, eyes sweeping the room like a judge from heaven. You can even fool yourself. But you cannot fool God. And the consequences of covered sin are often generational. I swear he looked straight at me. Melissa too. She was seated 3 rows behind us, fidgeting with her bracelet like she couldn't stay still. Caroline squeezed my hand when the choir stood up to sing. She leaned into my ear and whispered, Don't you feel God's presence today? It's like something big is about to happen. I nodded. Because something big already happened. I got her best friend pregnant. That night, Caroline cried in my arms, not because she knew the truth, but because she saw a toddler at church with little curls and pink Crocs and said it reminded her of what our daughter might have looked like. I held her and prayed with her. Lied with my hands wrapped around her trembling back. Melissa hasn't said much lately. But her actions say everything. She leaves baby magazines on the coffee table. Her prenatal vitamins sit casually on the kitchen counter. She hums lullabies when she thinks we're not listening. And this morning? She asked me to go with her to her next appointment. Mark, it's a big scan. They'll tell me the gender, she said softly, standing in the hallway outside the laundry room. I thought, you might want to know. I froze, shirt halfway into the dryer. I can't, I whispered. I can't, Melissa. She looked disappointed, but not surprised. You're going to have to step up eventually. I wanted to yell at her. I wanted to remind her that she came into our home, that she crossed the line, that she said she was on birth control. But the truth is, I'm the one who took the bait. No one forced me to pour that wine. No one forced me to fall for temptation when my wife was away. I did that. The godly husband. The one who stood in front of the congregation a month ago and led prayers for stronger marriages. God, the irony makes me sick. That night, I lay awake in bed, watching Caroline breathe in her sleep. Her fingers twitched. Her lips moved silently. She still prays in her dreams. Still believes I'm the man she married. That I'm good. That I'm honest. That I'd never betray her. I stared at the ceiling for hours, rehearsing a confession in my mind. Caroline, I have to tell you something. Or maybe, it happened once, and I regret it with everything in me. Or just, the baby Melissa's carrying, it's mine. But every version ends the same way. Caroline's heartbroken sobs. Her blood pressure skyrocketing. An ambulance in our driveway. A funeral. Or maybe just divorce. Which is worse. I prayed. For real this time. No half-hearted whispers. I knelt on the bathroom floor like a child begging for mercy. I messed up. I know I don't deserve a way out. But if there's any way to spare Caroline, Please, do something. Anything. And I hated myself for it, but part of me hoped, prayed, that Melissa would lose the baby. I know. I know how horrible that sounds. But it's the truth. That maybe God would just fix it. Make it go away. Make this consequence vanish. What kind of man prays for a miscarriage? Apparently. A week ago, Melissa had a scare. Bleeding. Cramping. She called me, crying in the middle of the night. I drove her to the ER. Caroline thought I was going to check on my mom. The baby was fine. Strong heartbeat, the nurse said. Melissa grabbed my hand and whispered, "I think it's a boy." I cried in the hospital parking lot. Not because I was happy. Not because I was sad. Because I have no idea what the hell I'm supposed to do. This is a living, breathing child. My child. But claiming him means burning my marriage to the ground. Lying means raising a family in shadows. Either way, someone gets destroyed. And if I wait much longer, I may lose control of this entirely. Melissa hinted she might start sharing her truth if I don't start making decisions. I know what that means. She'll tell people. Maybe Caroline. Maybe the church. Maybe Facebook. I'm running out of time. Tonight, Caroline made dinner, grilled salmon and mashed sweet potatoes. Her favorite meal. She lit candles. Wore that blue dress I love. She said she just felt grateful lately. Grateful. She took my hands and prayed before we ate. Lord, thank you for peace in our home. Thank you for healing our hearts. Thank you for the miracle I know you're working, even when I can't see it. I couldn't eat. Because the miracle she's praying for is already kicking inside another woman's stomach. Melissa says she's ready to go public. My wife just said she's never felt closer to me. I don't know how much longer I can live in this lie, but telling the truth might kill her. What would you do if this was your life? Confess or stay silent forever? I used to love Sundays. Not just for the sermons or the hymns or even the potlucks. I loved the stillness. The comfort of walking into God's house holding my wife's hand, feeling like I had nothing to hide. Like I was whole. Like I was good. Now, Sundays feel like a courtroom. Every glance feels like an accusation. Every verse feels like evidence. And every hug from a fellow church member feels like a chance for someone to smell the guilt clinging to my skin. Caroline still thinks everything's fine. She still sings during worship with her eyes closed and one hand lifted toward heaven. Her joy is real. Her faith is real. And it breaks me in ways I can't explain. Because every amen from her lips feels like a dagger in my throat. Melissa, on the other hand, no longer hides the bump. 5 months in, she wears it like armor. Flowy maternity dresses. Smug little smiles. Church members have started whispering. It's so sudden, someone said behind us last Sunday. Didn't she just move in with the Whitakers? And the whispers are getting louder. But Melissa doesn't flinch. She leans into it. She even gave her testimony last week at Women's Bible Study. Something about God using our lowest moments to birth new beginnings. I thought Caroline would connect the dots, but she didn't. She just hugged Melissa and whispered, "I'm so proud of you." Later that night, Caroline looked at me while brushing her teeth and said, "Isn't it beautiful? How God is restoring her life." I didn't respond. I just nodded. Then I excused myself to go check the locks, and ended up dry heaving over the sink in the downstairs bathroom. You want to know the worst part? I used to judge men like me. The hypocrites. The ones who wore faith like a mask but lived like frauds. I called them wolves in sheep's clothing. Now I am one. Leading Sunday school with sin still dripping from my lips. And people are starting to notice. At men's fellowship last Tuesday, Brother Caleb pulled me aside in the parking lot. He's a deacon. Kind of a straight shooter. Said he'd noticed I seemed distracted lately. "You know you can talk to me, right?" he said, voice low, eyes firm. "We all fall short, Mark. But hiding it never ends well." I wanted to tell him everything. The words were right there, climbing up my throat. But I smiled instead. "Just tired," I said. "Work's been heavy." He nodded slowly. "All right. But God's watching." That night, I didn't sleep. My brain replayed his words on loop. God's watching. God's watching while I lie to the woman who still calls me her answered prayer. God's watching while I avoid Melissa's eyes across the dinner table. God's watching while I count down the days until this child is born and my life explodes. You ever wish you could go back and unlive a moment? Not just rewind it, but erase it completely from existence? I do. Every single day. But time only moves one way. And in this direction, Melissa's belly is getting bigger, and her patience is getting thinner. Yesterday, she cornered me in the garage. I was trying to sneak out for some air, maybe a walk around the block to clear my head. She blocked the door. We need to talk, she said. Not now. Yes, now. She was firm. Hands on her belly. Her tone low and steady. I'm tired of playing house with your wife while you pretend none of this is happening. I sighed. What do you want from me? I want you to take responsibility. I want to stop living like a dirty little secret. I snapped. You are a secret, Melissa. This entire thing is a nightmare I wish I could wake up from. Her face twisted. For a second, I thought she might slap me. Instead, she said something I can't forget. One way or another, the truth is going to come out. And when it does, I won't be the only one people judge. Then she walked off, slow, deliberate steps, like someone who knows the clock is ticking and she holds the detonator. That evening, Caroline and I were invited to dinner at Pastor Ronald's home. He and his wife, Deborah, are kind. Stern but kind. The kind of people who remember your birthday and always ask about your spiritual life when they hand you a plate of meatloaf. But tonight felt off. The conversation started normal, work, church renovations, the latest Christian podcast. But then Pastor Ronald looked at me with that sharp, knowing gaze and said, Mark, I've been praying for clarity in your life. For courage. I nearly choked on my water. Caroline smiled, oblivious. He's been working so hard lately, she said proudly, rubbing my arm. Still leading Sunday school, still showing up for everyone else. I just want him to show up for himself too. I laughed weakly. My stomach twisted. Then Pastor Ronald said something that still echoes in my skull. You know, sometimes we mistake delay for mercy. But there comes a time when silence becomes disobedience. He looked directly at me. I nodded, heart pounding so loudly I barely heard the rest of the conversation. I excused myself to the bathroom and locked the door. My hands were shaking. My reflection looked like a stranger. And that's when the text came. From Melissa. It was a photo. Her stomach. Centered on her belly was a caption written in red lipstick. Your son says hi. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I deleted it. Then I threw up. Tonight I sat at a pastor's table while the mother of my unborn child texted me a picture of her belly. My wife was laughing across the room. I feel like I'm trapped in a movie I never auditioned for, and the credits are coming fast. If you were me, would you finally tell the truth? Or pray the lie holds a little longer? Some secrets scream even when you've never said a word. They bleed through your smiles, your silence, the way your hand hesitates when it touches your wife's shoulder. You think you're hiding it, but your body tells on you. Caroline is starting to notice. It started with the small things. A tilted glance during dinner. A longer than usual hug with a question buried inside it. This morning she asked me outright, "Are you seeing someone else?" I dropped my coffee. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't cry. Didn't accuse. She just asked it like she was asking about the weather. And that scared me more than if she had screamed. I bent down, wiping the spill with trembling hands. "No," I said too quickly. "Of course not." She studied me. Not the way a wife watches her husband, the way a detective studies a suspect. She nodded slowly and walked away. No fight. No follow-up. Just silence. That was worse. She used to trust me blindly. Now she looks at me like someone waiting for a fire to start, someone who already smells the smoke but hasn't seen the flames. I tried to pray that night. I sat on the edge of the bed with my Bible open but unread. The verses blurred. My mouth moved, but nothing came out. Just guilt, thick and choking. Bailey, our dog, whined at my feet. Even he knew something was wrong. Then came the second scare. Not Melissa this time. Caroline. We were at the grocery store. She bent down to grab a can of diced tomatoes and collapsed right there in the aisle. No warning. No sound. Just down. Her eyes fluttered. Her lips were pale. I dropped everything and screamed for help. Paramedics came. People stared. I held her hand all the way to the hospital. At one point she whispered, "Is this it?" And I lost it. I begged her to hold on. Told her I loved her. Promised her everything, all the things I never actually gave her. The doctor called it a hypertensive episode. Blood pressure was dangerously high. Stress-induced, they said. She needs to avoid emotional triggers. No surprises. No sudden shocks. I almost laughed. No surprises? She's sleeping in a house with the biggest betrayal of her life parked 2 doors away, and she doesn't even know it. That night, after they released her, I helped her into bed and tucked her in like she was made of glass. She looked up at me with swollen eyes and whispered, "If I die, Mark, just remember I really did love you." That nearly broke me. I sat beside her after she fell asleep, staring at the ceiling and trying not to scream. I had this moment, this wild moment, where I almost packed a bag and left. Just walked away and let her live in peace. But that would be another coward's move. Another sin on top of sin. Instead, I walked into the guest room. Melissa was there reading a baby name book, her hand resting on her belly like she was already cradling a newborn. She looked up, startled. "Is everything okay?" "No," I said. "It's not." I told her about Caroline's collapse. About the ER. The blood pressure. The doctor's warning. Melissa's face softened, just for a moment. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "She doesn't deserve any of this." I nodded. "Neither does the baby." We sat in silence for a moment. The kind of silence where you can hear things cracking beneath the floorboards of your soul. Then she said something I didn't expect. "Mark, maybe it's time we tell her." I stared at her. "You want to tell her now? After what just happened?" "She deserves to know," Melissa said. "This baby is coming. It's real. You can't keep pretending this didn't happen." "I'm not pretending," I said quietly. "I'm surviving." Melissa didn't reply. She just looked down at her stomach. I left the room before I could say something I'd regret. But I know she's right. This lie is killing me, but the truth might kill Caroline. And the baby is growing either way. A few days later, Melissa posted a photo online. It was subtle, just her hands on her belly, captioned, "Trusting God for this new chapter." But someone shared it. Then someone else. Then a woman from church commented, "Is that baby yours, Mark?" with a laughing emoji. I deleted my Facebook that night. The whispers are building now. They don't have proof, not yet, but the rumors are starting to swirl like storm clouds. I saw 2 women from the prayer group glance at Melissa, then at me, during Sunday's offering. "You hear about the baby? The timing's weird, right? And Mark's been off lately." I feel like I'm standing in the center of a glass house, and people are lining up with stones. But I still can't tell her. Not after the hospital. Not after she looked at me and said, "I really did love you." I've broken a sacred thing. And now I'm trying to decide whether breaking it more would be mercy or murder. The doctor said Caroline needs rest. No shocks, no emotional stress. But how do you protect someone from the one truth that could kill them? How do you live beside a woman you're still in love with, when the child growing inside her best friend is yours? What should I do? Confess and risk her life, or protect her with silence? I never thought the words baby shower could feel like a death sentence. But when Caroline came home 2 weeks ago, smiling from ear to ear, cheeks glowing with excitement, and said, "I want to throw Melissa a baby shower," something inside me ruptured. I stood frozen in the doorway, grocery bags still in my hands. "You want to what?" "A shower," she said, placing her purse on the table. "She deserves to be celebrated. You know how hard the last year has been for her. And now God is giving her a fresh start." Good. I swear, if I hear one more person call this a blessing, I might actually lose my mind. Caroline rambled on about color themes, finger foods, and a Pinterest board she'd already started curating. Meanwhile, my heartbeat thudded in my ears like war drums. "She's due in a few months, Mark," Caroline said, placing her hands on my chest. We have to do something special for her. And I know you've been so busy lately. I was thinking planning this might bring us all closer. Closer. The irony of it nearly made me laugh. I said yes, of course. What choice did I have? I couldn't say, no, honey, we shouldn't throw your best friend a party because I'm the father of her child. So I nodded, kissed her forehead, and said, it's a great idea. And just like that, I agreed to host a celebration for the child that could destroy my marriage. The invitations went out the following Sunday after service. Pink and gold cards. No name for the father, just celebrating Melissa and baby in soft cursive. Caroline bought decorations, handmade gift bags, even tiny socks for a baby that she thinks has nothing to do with her. Every moment was torture. Melissa, to her credit, looked just as uncomfortable. I caught her staring at me during dinner one night. She didn't say a word, just touched her stomach and looked away. She knew this was insane. We were living in a house of cards, and this baby shower was the wind. The day of the event was bright and crisp, one of those golden spring Saturdays that makes everything feel deceptively perfect. We cleaned the house from top to bottom. Caroline baked. Melissa got her hair done. Women from the church showed up with gifts and casseroles and laughter. And me? I stood there with a fake smile, watching women rub the belly of the woman carrying my child while my wife played hostess of the year. It was hell in pastel. Someone handed me a plate of cupcakes and asked me to refill the lemonade. I retreated to the kitchen, where I finally let the smile fall. My hands were shaking so badly I spilled the drink. The pink punch splashed across the counter like blood. That's when I heard it. It's strange, isn't it? One of the women whispered behind me, just loud enough for it to reach my ears. She moved in with the Whitakers barely 6 months ago and now she's this far along? Exactly, said another. You'd think someone would have said something by now. And doesn't Mark seem off? I froze. They didn't see me. I was behind the pantry wall. But I felt the words slice straight through my spine. They were suspecting me. I wasn't just paranoid. People were actually starting to put things together. All it would take was one person to voice it out loud, one bold accusation, and everything would unravel. I walked back into the living room like a ghost. Melissa met my eyes for a half second. Caroline was laughing with her hands over her mouth, taking Polaroids of everyone holding Melissa's stomach. I wanted to scream. Then the worst possible thing happened. Melissa stood up and tapped a spoon to her glass. I just wanted to say a few words, she said, beaming nervously, about what this child means to me. Oh God, please no. Being here, in this house, with this family, has changed everything for me, she began. I lost a marriage. I lost a home. But God gave me a second chance. He gave me this home. And more than that, He gave me a child. Everyone clapped. She smiled at Caroline, eyes glassy. I don't think I'd still be here if it weren't for you. You took me in. You loved me. You reminded me of my worth. I don't know how to say this, but there's something sacred about this baby's life. Something unexpected. And I believe God is going to use it to heal people, not hurt them. Her voice cracked. My hands clenched into fists. Caroline started crying, tears of joy, not suspicion. She reached out and hugged Melissa, whispering something I couldn't hear. And all I could think was, you have no idea who you're embracing. I walked out. Into the backyard. Into the sunlight. Away from the music and the laughter and the praise. I thought about running. About vanishing. Letting the truth come out without me here to witness it. Maybe they'd forgive easier if I were just gone. Instead, I dropped to my knees beside the garden and whispered the most pathetic prayer of my life. I don't know what to do. Please tell me what to do. Do I confess? Do I protect her? Do I let this blow up? Or do I hold it all inside until it eats me alive? There was no thunder. No sign. Just wind. Just silence. Just the sound of my wife laughing inside the house. The same house where both her marriage and motherhood are being rewritten without her knowledge. Today I watched my wife throw a baby shower for the woman I got pregnant. She kissed her cheek and called her a sister. And Melissa almost said something. I could feel it. I don't know how much longer this lie will hold. Do I tell her before someone else does? Or pray the secret dies before the truth kills her? There's a sound your heart makes when it stops beating for a second. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's just still. Like a clock in a quiet house, suddenly dead. I heard that sound today. Because today, Caroline saw something she wasn't supposed to see. It started like every normal Wednesday, if any day in this twisted life can still be called normal. She made breakfast, scrambled eggs, rye toast, blueberries drizzled with honey, the kind of meal you make when you're trying to stay healthy, trying to stay hopeful. Melissa had her OB appointment that morning. She asked if I could drive her. I said no. I couldn't risk anyone seeing us together outside the house. Not after the baby shower. Not after the whispers. So she took an Uber. But before she left, she walked into the kitchen while Caroline was folding towels and slid her phone into my hand. "It won't stop acting up," she said softly. "Just check if that app updated, the prenatal one." I should have said no. I should have said, "I'm not touching your phone. Not here. Not now." But my instincts betrayed me. I opened it. And in that moment, God help me, Caroline walked in. She didn't say anything at first. She just froze. Melissa's floral-patterned phone in my hand. Open. In our kitchen. Does that? Melissa's phone, she asked, confused. I panicked. Yeah, she asked me to check something. What are you checking? Before I could answer, a notification dropped from the top of the screen. Baby Center app update, 22 weeks. Your baby can now hear sounds and voices. Talk to him. Your baby. Caroline stared at it. I watched her lips part slightly, her breath catch. She looked at me, really looked. Not like a wife. Like a stranger trying to piece together a crime scene. Then, just as suddenly, she stepped back and said, "I'm going to lie down." That was it. No yelling. No crying. Just the slow retreat of a woman processing a puzzle piece she never asked for. Melissa didn't come home until late that evening. By then, I had already sat through 4 hours of silence. Caroline didn't ask questions. She didn't demand answers. But her eyes were swollen, and she didn't finish her dinner. I knew I had to say something. So after Melissa went to bed, I climbed into ours and reached for Caroline's hand. She didn't pull away, but she didn't hold it back either. "Caroline," I whispered, "I need to talk to you." She closed her eyes. Not in exhaustion. In resignation. "I already know," she said softly. I froze. "You do." Her voice cracked. "Not everything. Not the details. But enough. Enough to know something's been wrong for a long time." I waited for the shouting. The screaming. The rage. Instead, she whispered the last thing I expected to hear. "Is it yours?" The words hit harder than any slap. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She looked at me, eyes glassy, face pale. "Melissa's baby. Is it yours, Mark?" I wanted to lie. Almost did. But I saw the pain already flooding her eyes. She already knew. I just nodded. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. She turned her face away. "Get out," she said, voice calm. "Please." "Caroline." Out. I slept in the garage that night. Melissa didn't ask questions the next morning. She knew. Maybe she heard something through the walls. Maybe Caroline told her. I don't know. But the way she looked at me, like I was radioactive, said enough. I stayed out most of the day. Drove around aimlessly. Parked outside a church I didn't belong to. Prayed without saying anything out loud. I came home to an empty house. No note. Just silence. Caroline's car was gone. So was half her closet. She had left. No explosion. No spectacle. Just absence. And when I walked past Melissa's door, I heard her sobbing through it. Not angry sobs. Not guilt-ridden sobs. Lonely ones. Ones that said, "We won." But what exactly did we win? She knows now. After months of living a double life, my wife finally knows. But she didn't scream. She didn't fight. She just left. Now I'm standing in an empty hallway, listening to Melissa cry, and wondering if I've destroyed 3 lives in one night. If you were me, what would you do now? Chase her? Beg for forgiveness? or accept that the marriage is already dead. The house feels different now. Not just quieter. Hollow. Like it knows something's missing. Like it knows she's gone. Caroline's perfume still lingers in the bedroom. Soft lavender and vanilla. It clings to the sheets, the pillows, the Bible she left on the nightstand. But the woman herself, the heart of this home, vanished like she never belonged here. And the only thing she left behind was a letter. I didn't see it at first. I was too busy checking the closets, calling her phone, running around like a madman convinced she'd only gone for a drive. But she hadn't taken her water bottle, her charger, her daily planner. Then I saw it. A folded piece of paper sitting neatly on her pillow. My name on the front. Mark. I sat down slowly. My chest was tight, my hands ice cold. The paper trembled as I opened it. I had a dream last week. In it I was holding a baby, our baby. She had your eyes. My dimples. She laughed when I sang. I woke up sobbing. Not because she wasn't real, but because I thought the dream was God's way of comforting me. I realize now, maybe it was His way of preparing me. I know everything. You didn't need to say it. I saw it in your eyes weeks ago. I felt it in your touch. I heard it in every strained silence between us. And today, I saw it in black and white on Melissa's phone. I don't hate you. I'm not even sure I'm angry anymore. I'm just tired. I gave you everything I had. Even after the fibroid surgery. Even when the doctors said my womb was fragile. I still believed. I still prayed. I prayed for a child. I prayed for a marriage. I prayed for you. And now, my best friend is carrying your child in my home. That's more than betrayal, Mark. That's cruelty in holy disguise. I need space. To breathe. To weep. To ask God what comes next. I'm staying with my sister for now. Please don't come looking for me. And if you ever truly loved me, don't lie anymore. Caroline. I read the letter 3 times. By the 4th, I couldn't see through the tears. She knew. Not just about the affair, but about the baby. About the depth of it all. She'd been watching it all play out, silently unraveling piece by piece. And still, she never lost her grace. She didn't scream. She didn't curse. She just left like a saint escaping a burning church. Melissa found me in the hallway that evening, sitting against the wall like a child after detention. She's gone? She asked gently. I handed her the letter. She didn't read it. Just held it against her chest like it was radioactive. Then she whispered, "What now?" I didn't answer. Because I don't know. I don't know what happens next when the lie finally breaks open and swallows everything whole. Do I try to fix this? Or do I let it collapse and start again? Melissa sat down beside me, silent for a long time. Then she said, I didn't mean to ruin your life. I ruined it myself, I replied. You were just there. She nodded. I don't expect you to love me. And I don't expect you to forgive me. We both laughed. Bitter. Broken. Tired. She touched her belly. He kicked this morning. Hard. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to feel anything. But I did. Guilt. Fear. And, God help me, something else. Not joy. Just wait. This child exists. He's coming. And he deserves a life not built on secrets. But does that mean I raise him with Melissa? Does that mean I say goodbye to the only woman I ever truly loved? Does that mean I live with this consequence forever? I don't know. I sat alone in the living room after Melissa went upstairs. I stared at the wedding photo on the mantel, Caroline in her lace gown, me in a gray suit, both of us smiling like eternity was guaranteed. And I whispered the question I've been afraid to ask since this all began. God, what do you want me to do now? My wife left me a letter instead of a goodbye. My unborn son is still growing inside the woman who wrecked our lives. And I'm standing at the crossroads, wondering which direction leads to redemption and which leads to hell. What would you do if you were me? Try to win her back? Or step into fatherhood and let the marriage die? I had stopped hoping she'd call. Weeks had passed. Melissa was gone, living with her cousin across town. The nursery she once planned to set up in our guest room sat empty. Just beige walls, unopened boxes of diapers, and a rocking chair we never built. Caroline hadn't come home. hadn't texted, hadn't written another letter. And yet, I still kept my phone by my side, fully charged, volume always on. Like some twisted act of faith. Then one Thursday morning it rang. A known number. But I knew her voice before she even said my name. Mark. It was soft. Controlled. But shaky around the edges. I stood up instinctively as if she could see me through the call. Caroline. Don't talk. Just listen. I sat back down. I've been thinking, she continued. Praying. A lot. And I still don't know how to make sense of any of this. I didn't interrupt. I want to meet. My heart stopped. When? Saturday. At the park by Willow Street. Just us. I wanted to ask if this meant something good. A beginning. A step toward reconciliation. But she had already hung up. Saturday came like a storm cloud, slow, heavy, and impossible to ignore. I wore the same blue sweater she once said made my eyes look kind. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to remind her of something we used to be. She was already there when I arrived. Sitting on a bench beneath a dying oak tree. No makeup. No jewelry. Just a scarf and her wedding ring still on her finger. I sat beside her, close enough to feel the cold but not close enough to touch. She didn't look at me. Just stared at the lake. You know, she said, when I first met Melissa, I thought God sent her to heal the parts of me I couldn't fix myself. I didn't speak. I told her everything, she went on. Every ultrasound that ended in tears. Every time a pregnancy test came back negative. Every prayer I prayed while bleeding in the bathroom after another miscarriage. Her voice trembled. But she didn't stop. She knew how much I wanted to be a mother. And still, she took that from me. I took that from you, I whispered. Finally, she turned to face me. No, Mark. You gave it to her. That hurt. But it was true. I bowed my head. I wish I could undo it. She studied me for a long time. I don't want an apology, she said. I looked up. Then what do you want? I want honesty. About what? About everything, she said. Do you love her? I hesitated. Not because I didn't know, but because the answer would destroy whatever sliver of peace still lived between us. No, I said finally. Not like I love you. Tears welled in her eyes. Then why? I was weak. I was angry. I was lonely. I felt like a failure, as a husband, as a man. And she was there. She made it feel like maybe it wasn't all my fault. Her lips tightened. You weren't the one with the broken womb, Mark. I winced. I know. Silence stretched between us like a canyon. Then she asked the question that burned most. Are you going to raise the child? I didn't answer right away. How could I? Every part of me wanted to say yes, because he's mine. My blood. My responsibility. But what does that look like? Co-parenting with the woman who betrayed my wife? Weekend visits? Family courts? Child support and playdates filled with shame? Or worse, raising him together and forcing Caroline to watch from a distance? I don't know, I said. I want to do what's right. But I don't know what that is anymore. She nodded slowly. Neither do I. We sat in silence again. This time, less tense. More human. Then, without looking at me, she said, I'm not ready to come back. I expected that. But I'm not filing yet either. That I didn't expect. I don't know if I'll ever trust you again, she added. But I'm not sure I can walk away just yet. Not until I know what kind of man you're going to be after this. I looked at her. And what do you want that man to look like? She shrugged. Humble. Honest. Redeemed. I don't know if I can be that. Then you don't deserve either of us. She stood. Brushed crumbs from her coat. As she walked away, she paused and turned back for just a second. Call me if the baby's born, she said. I don't need updates. But I need to know. Then she left. That night, I sat in the nursery. Alone. I ran my fingers along the unopened box of diapers. Picked up the tiny onesie we'd ordered online. The one Caroline picked out before she knew the child wouldn't be hers. And I broke. Not a manly cry. A collapse. Years of pressure and guilt and shame bleeding out in messy, silent sobs. Because now the question wasn't just about who I had failed. It was about who I could still save. She didn't forgive me. She didn't take me back. But she left the door open, just a crack. Now I have a choice: step into fatherhood and try to rebuild a future, or lose everything for good. What would you do in my place? Fight for the woman you love, or focus on the child you never expected? They say when a child is born, the world shifts, not just for the mother, but for anyone connected to that life. I felt that shift the moment Melissa called me at 2:43 a.m. "It's time," she whispered. "My water just broke." For a second, I didn't move. I sat there on the edge of my bed, staring into the dark. My heart pounded so loud, I thought it might wake the neighbors. But no one else lived here anymore. Caroline was gone. Melissa was about to give birth. I was still somewhere in between. The hospital was lit up like a beacon in the night. Bright, sterile, cold. I parked out front and walked in with shaking hands. I gave my name at the front desk. They pointed me toward maternity. 3rd floor. Room 312. When I reached her door, I hesitated. I could hear her breathing, heavy, strained. I heard the soft murmurs of nurses. The beeping of machines. A heartbeat monitor pulsing. I wasn't ready. Not to see her like that. Not to see my son. But I walked in anyway. Melissa looked up, sweat beading on her forehead, pain etched into every line of her face. But when she saw me, something softened in her eyes. "You came," she breathed. I said I would. We didn't talk much after that. Labor came in waves, harder, faster, stronger. I stood beside her, holding her hand as she screamed through contractions. And then, the moment. At 4:06 a.m., after one final push and a cry that rattled every part of me, the baby arrived. A boy. Tiny. Screaming. Alive. They placed him on her chest and she wept. I stood there, frozen, watching a part of me squirm and cry and blink at the world for the first time. This child shouldn't exist, I thought. And yet here he is, perfect. A nurse turned to me and asked, "Would you like to hold your son?" I hesitated. My feet felt like concrete. But I nodded. They wrapped him in a pale blue blanket and placed him in my arms. He was so small, so warm, so real. And as I stared into his barely opened eyes, I whispered, "You didn't ask for any of this, did you?" He blinked. My heart broke. The days that followed were a blur. Visitors came, Melissa's cousins, 2 women from her Bible study. None from church leadership. Caroline didn't call. I sent a single text after the birth. "He's here. Healthy. 6 pounds, 3 ounces. I named him Caleb." She never replied. 3 weeks later, I was asked to meet with the church board. Not in the main sanctuary. In the basement meeting room, the place where hard conversations happened. Pastor Ronald sat at the head of the table. Deacons flanked both sides. None of them smiled. One of the elders cleared his throat. "Mark, we're not here to judge your soul. That's between you and God. But leadership, that's another matter." I nodded. "You've stepped away from ministry for over a month. During that time, rumors have spread. Confusion has grown. And several members have left the congregation." I knew where this was going. Another elder leaned forward. "We're asking you to resign. Formally. Publicly." "And the church?" I asked. "What will you tell them?" "The truth," Pastor Ronald said. "That sin has consequences. But also, that redemption is possible." I swallowed hard. "And if I'm trying to rebuild my family?" Ronald looked me in the eyes. "Then go rebuild it. Off the stage. Out of the spotlight. With quiet humility and consistent love." I signed the letter that night. Effective immediately, I was no longer a church leader. Just a man. A father. A husband in exile. A week later, I received a letter. Not from the church. From Caroline. It was short. "I got your message. I'm glad he's healthy. I'm not ready to see him. Or you. But I'm praying for him. And I'm praying for you. Please don't confuse my silence for hate. But don't confuse prayer for reconciliation either. I just need time. Caroline." And now here I am, sitting in the nursery with Caleb asleep in his crib beside me. Melissa moved into a small apartment across town. She offered to co-parent, but not as a couple. She said she's not in love with me. Said she doesn't want this baby raised in a house built on shame. I visit on weekends. I rock him to sleep. I read him psalms at midnight and apologize in whispers he won't understand for years. The church no longer calls. The pulpit is no longer mine. The woman I love is no longer beside me. But my son is breathing. And I'm still here. Somehow. So now I ask you, not as a preacher, not as a husband, not even as a sinner, just as a man trying to live with the choices he's made, what would you do? If you had one last chance to rebuild, would you fight for your wife? Or pour yourself into fatherhood and accept the past is gone? Is redemption possible after this? Or am I just learning how to live inside the ruin? Comment below. I've told you everything. Now the decision might be yours to help me make. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts below. Would you choose love or loyalty? And don't forget to subscribe for more true secrets every day.